It's time, you guys, for another Vlogmas video. Hey guys, Kira here from 50 Shades of Mom, back to share another Vlogmas video. Today is Vlogmas day number 5, and today I have a recipe share. So why am I sitting in my bed, you ask, instead of doing my normal intro, which I would do for a recipe share inside of my kitchen? Well, this is an old video. I mentioned yesterday that this is a video I found in my computer that I filmed all the way back in January. But I wanted to truly share this with you because this video comes back with a little bit of story time. So I told a little bit about this story when I first put this pancake on my meal plan, again, way back in January when I was preparing to film it. Because I used to work in a place called Bickfords when I worked in Massachusetts. So a bunch of people who lived in Massachusetts or had ever been there or ate there had commented down below and told me that they knew exactly what I was talking about, where I was talking about. And Bickfords is very similar to like an IHOP or a Denny's. And it was one of my first waitressing jobs ever, which pretty much started my career because I ended up waitressing and bartending a majority of my life before now. And so when I worked at Bickfords, it played a huge part of my young adulthood because, like I said, it kind of allowed me to encompass this love for food and the restaurant business. And one of the things that Bickford was famous for was their Dutch apple pancake. This thing was absolutely amazing, and when it would go by in the little mini cast iron skillet by you while you were walking, or if you were serving that and dropping it to a table yourself, you just couldn't help but like sniff the steam coming off of this Dutch apple. It just smelled like everything that fall should smell like. So delicious. Just, I could eat one all the time. And now, if you guys have been with me for longer than a year, you know that I used to do Food Hack Fridays. They kind of fell off the wagon this year. A lot of things fell off the wagon this year, but it's something I wanted to get back into. I'm literally waiting. It's one more day until my pod arrives, and then I can get my cookbooks and stuff back. And once I have my food hack books, I can begin to start sharing them again. But one of the food hacks that I made right before I filmed this video was me making my own maple syrup. So Daryl's family up in the mountains in upstate New York, his stepfather's whole family was involved in the syrup business. So we forever had syrup that was homemade from his family's farm in our refrigerator. So we've gotten very used to their syrup, and we really don't defer from that too much. You can tell, like, the last few times I've bought syrup, I've been sad because I'm missing not having theirs. Like, they're usually what I have in my fridge. And so when I saw inside of this food hack book that you can make your own syrup, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try my hands at making my own syrup, because what if I ever don't have their syrup on hand? If I can make my own, that would be amazing. And so I made this food hack. If you missed that video, I'll make sure to link it later on in the video or in the description box so that you can check out exactly how I made this syrup. But once it was made, it just wasn't what I imagined it to be. It wasn't what I would expect to put on the table to have on top of waffles, French toast, pancakes, that kind of thing. It just had a different kind of texture. And so immediately I was brought back to this Dutch apple pancake and just imagine being able to serve that syrup on top of that. And so that's pretty much where this entire video came from. And I am so glad that I was able to find the recipe and film it, because it's something I can have forever now in my list of cooking videos to go back and refer to, and recipes, because it came out spot on, super delicious, and just how I remembered it. So I'm gonna bring you down to my old countertops in my old house, and I'm gonna show you how to make Bickford's Dutch apple pancake. Okay guys, so this is all that you need to make this super simple recipe. And really, this recipe encompasses all the flavors of fall, which technically it is still fall for another 2 weeks. So for this recipe, you're going to need some all-purpose flour. You're going to need some whole cultured buttermilk. You're going to need 2 apples, 2 eggs, and then you're going to need 3 to 4 tablespoons of butter that we're going to put in the bottom of the skillet, some cinnamon, and sugar. That's it, all that you need for this recipe. Like I said, super simple, but the key to this is the cast iron skillet. This definitely gives it that Dutch apple flavor that you're looking for. So I really think you guys are going to enjoy this recipe. It is like a cross between a crepe and a pancake, and I think it is going to be the perfect vessel for this syrup. I've been dying to find something that I can put this syrup on, and I feel like the memory of working in Bickfords and seeing this Dutch apple go by, this is going to be the perfect hull for my syrup. So for starters, let's throw that butter into the cast iron skillet, and then that's going to go off in the oven to melt. I had to show off my brand new cutting board. Again, this is an old video, so I received that cutting board for Christmas, and this was the first cooking video that I was filming that I was using it in, so I was super excited. So your first step is to cut your apples. You're going to leave the skin on, especially for this recipe. The skin keeps the apple a little bit crisp while it's baking off. In my opinion, I just wouldn't want a mushy apple inside of my pancake. So you're gonna want that texture and crisp and crunch that leaving the skin on gives. In this recipe, I actually used Honeycrisp apples. You can use any type of apples that you want, but my new fall in love over the last few years has been for Honeycrisp. I had actually never even heard of a Honeycrisp apple until my husband brought it up to me, a radio show that he listens to, that he got me into, the Mike O'Mara show. He was raving about how his favorite apple was a Honeycrisp, and I had never tried one before, and so I sought out for a Honeycrisp apple, and once my family went Honeycrisp, we never went back. But again, you can use any kind of apple that you want inside of this recipe. And then now we're going to make our topping mixture. So it's 2 tablespoons of sugar into the bowl, and then 2 tablespoons of cinnamon into the bowl, and then you're just going to give it a really good mix. You want to make sure that everything incorporates really, really good, because this is going to be the topping. So you don't want no sugar over here and all cinnamon over there. You want the sweetness to coat throughout. And so now we're going to make our pancake mix, and this is for 1 serving, 1 pancake. So you're only using 1 cup of flour and then 1 cup of buttermilk, and then we're going to put in our 2 eggs and whisk it together. That's why I said it's a very simple recipe, and we're not putting in, if you notice, any kind of baking powder or baking soda, no leavening agent, which is why I said it's a cross between a pancake and a crepe. So it does rise just a tiny bit as it's baking, but for the most part, this is only going to create a base at the bottom of your skillet. So what you're about to see now is a YouTube fail. So of course my camera was not on when I took the hot skillet out of the oven with the melted butter, and then you're just going to pour that batter right into the pan with the melted butter. Again, you guys missed that, but I'm sure you can imagine what it looked like pouring the batter into the melted butter. And then now all we're going to do is come in and start adding our apples to the top. You can really add as many apples as you want, but you want to create another element into your pancake, because again, this is not going to rise to something thick and fluffy. So really, this is going to just kind of all bake up around those apples, and it's going to become one sheet. And it really is just so delicious. I can't explain it until you try it and eat it yourself. So once you get a good topping and a good layer of apples on the top, you're just going to cover it with that cinnamon and sugar. You could not use all of it if you do not want to, but I literally used the entire thing and made sure that there wasn't a square inch that wasn't covered with cinnamon and sugar. And then on 400 degrees, you're going to put it on for 20 minutes. Now, do not forget to always use a pot holder. That cast iron skillet is like piping hot. But do you see how that baked up? That cinnamon and sugar just bakes all over those apples, and basically that crepe-like base holds all of the apples together. So it almost becomes an open-faced apple pie, which is why I truly believed soon as I made the syrup that this was going to be what I needed to put that syrup on. It will come out in one good piece. Look at that. If it's baked properly, it'll come right out on the spatula onto the plate. And now it's time to add our syrup. So again, if you guys missed this video, here's where I'm going to attach it up in the iCards. But this was a really delicious syrup. You can see that it's very thick and creamy and decadent. Now, it'll thin out once we put it in the microwave. I throw this cup in the microwave for 30 seconds and I tried to change that thickness that congealed from it being cold in the fridge. And you can see it's definitely thinner in that ramekin, and you're going to see how thin it is while we pour it now on top of the pancake. But it is not the kind of syrup I would have imagined putting on a regular set of buttermilk pancakes. That to me just wasn't like this. This syrup had a more, like I said, a very decadent, a rich, a creamy texture to it. The second that I put it in my mouth and I tasted the flavor, I was brought back 20 years and I was like, whoa, I'm in Bickfords, I'm eating a Dutch apple, and this is the syrup that needs to be on top of it. And so I had to create it. And of course, Pinterest has every recipe anywhere. So as soon as I put in the Dutch apple, it brought up Bickfords right away. It became a recipe that I had to make, and it was definitely one that I was going to keep in my repertoire because it is pretty much something that I always have on hand. I always have buttermilk, and if you don't have buttermilk, it's very simple to make buttermilk at home, but I always have buttermilk in my fridge because I'm constantly making ranch dressing, and so it doesn't kill me to have something like that on hand. And so this is something that I actually want to try now. Since then, I've gone more of a low carb diet, so we don't even have all-purpose flour in the house. I only have coconut flour and almond flour. This isn't something that I've tried yet to do with that, but I'm sure that it would work. I'm not positive, which is why I still suggested the recipe with that all-purpose flour, because I know that that's how it's worked before, and that's how the original recipe says to do it. But I'm pretty sure those other ways would work. And you guys, the syrup, the flavor, I promise you, you will not go wrong. So if you enjoyed this recipe, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. I hope you guys enjoyed this Vlogmas video. I love you guys all so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.